Colored content exclusive.
Hey everyone, it's Victoria, and I'm here with Terrance Daye, the creator of the Colored Hospital.
Hi everybody.
Hey, so I have some questions for you, and hopefully you can answer everything today for me.
Of course, yes, I'm here for it.
So I watched this, right?
Yes.
And I think it's like above me because I didn't totally get everything. So
Yeah.
for everyone who may be like, I'm artistic, so I'm like, I think I know what it's about, but I want to make sure because I don't want to feel dumb. Please tell us what the short film is about without giving everything away.
Yes, I'll give a brief description. I'll give a little bit about me. I'm a poet, and so a lot of my work, even in my poetry, which I hope to also articulate through my film, is I love the audience to do almost as much work or just to work alongside me as I have to put in the work for the actual content. So a lot of times there are a lot of layers that I want the audience to sort of begin to bring in. So I say, like, whatever you bring to it, whatever you see, whatever you bring to it, it's correct. Don't ever like doubt or think there's one right answer or one right thing. There's so many ways to look at it. But for me, what the Colored Hospital is it's about a Black boy who's sort of just this generic character who is going through this process, through this experience. Through this fictionalized colored hospital, this hospital that's specifically geared towards the healing of Negro mind and body, and to getting the Black Black person to a place of wellness. So that's kind of what's happening. Is he goes through a journey where he is shown in a sense these parts of his life, which are supposed to be these joyous parts of his life. And really has to kind of connect with also the parts of pain in his life as well. And he has to kind of come to a place where he can move past his pain and live the rest of his life. That's a short little synopsis.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I mean, I definitely have questions about ending.
No. Those questions
about ending. Because I don't want to give away for anyone who hasn't watched it and wants to see it, even though it's a short.
It's definitely like I definitely wanted it to be an experience for everybody who goes to see it. I want the images to feel new and jolting in a sense, and a little bit like that level of confusion, that sense of like not knowing. I think is very much something that the character in the film himself is also experiencing and feeling. So there is that sense of like not everything is spelled out for you, not everything is as clear. And for me, and going through, I guess if I can get a little bit into it, a lot of what's dealt with the film is how do you deal with trauma? How do you deal with mental health, with pain and depression? As somebody who's experienced depression, that's always been a touchy area for me. And it's always been rather difficult for me to begin to articulate or find the words to express how I'm feeling on the inside. And in many ways, the Colored Hospital, this Black boy who I can see myself in the place of, is going on that journey of trying to figure out how do I get to a place where I feel good about myself, where I'm not in this kind of deep, dark place all the time, especially when you start to see things happening around you, things happening in politics or happening just in the world to other Black men, to other Black people. You just begin to have this overwhelming sense of like, how can I make it? How can I feel good about waking up in the morning and just going about my day? But it really is through taking the good parts in life, and that's sort of what's happening in the film, is taking the good parts, taking the little sweet parts, and making the best of them, and moving forward with that. So
Okay, so now I get it a little bit more. I think once people watch it, they'll understand why I'm like, okay, now I get it. They'll totally get it. So you kind of delved into the next question, which was what inspired the short film. You talked about, obviously, it's personally you, things that you went through, and just, I guess, Black men or Black people dealing with all the things that are happening now. Is that pretty much the gist of what the inspiration was, or was there something else?
So last summer when there was the Piedmont Park hanging, there was the Orlando shooting, there was the Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, a lot of these things happened like in a very short period of time. And I just remember just being with friends, and on social media, there was just, again, this overwhelming sense of people just like, I don't want to get up in the morning. I don't want to do this. And I was feeling that, also going through a time where for myself, dealing with just dealing with my sexuality. My father, who is a pastor, sort of navigate those two worlds has always been difficult, and has always just been a heavy burden for me. And last summer was really sort of a place where that was kind of, all those things were kind of coming to a boiling point, while also having this all these external issues kind of taking place. It just felt like there was really no room, no space for me. And I felt suffocated. And so for me, this film kind of comes out of that place and comes out of that journey, which for me was a lot of me sitting down, taking time out to really kind of connect with myself and get back to myself, to my roots. A lot of me asking myself questions, a lot of me getting vulnerable, becoming more vulnerable. And so what happens in the film a little bit is you see that part where those hands are really symbolic, kind of representative element in the film, and they remove his clothing before he kind of goes into this kind of dark space, this space that is unknown space. And that for me was representative of the vulnerability and the kind of that place that I had to go to before I could really open myself up to just a deeper understanding of me and how I identify with myself, and how I kind of combat the world. And so so all those kind of things were just really all sort of inspirations for me, kind of wanting to delve a little bit more into how do we, as specifically for me as Black men, where we are conditioned and sort of socialized to have these sort of walls up, like I can't emote, I can't seem too weak, I can't seem too whatever it is, too effeminate, too sensitive to feeling, I can't show my emotions too much. How do I express to somebody else that I'm in pain, that I'm hurting? And so in many ways, that's where it comes from. And I'm sure you have questions about the end, so I'll let you ask that before I delve into that.
I don't know if I want to give the ending away. Like, I don't know if, I think people should totally view it without knowing what the ending is, because to me, that's beautiful. Like, visually, it's stunning.
Yeah,
when you look at it, like the colors, right? And then it leaves you questioning things. And definitely I saw traces of questioning sexuality, some parts of religion, when you get the, well, not you, but the character gets the cross, where he's wearing, like, I think it was Jordan, or a popular clothing line or whatever. So I saw a lot of different themes going on. Totally can see exactly, and I think what you're saying now that you explain it, and I think those things do come through. And with the ending being the way it is, I think it's really great if people just kind of watch it and see it without me telling what happened.
I'm always excited to see people's reactions, because there's some people who, regardless of whether they understand everything, get the feeling, which many times,
there's a great feeling at the end.
Yeah,
that you feel good. You feel good about the ending.
And that for me, that's really what makes, like, really why I do this in a sense. I know it's not always going to be for everybody, but if people can walk away, I know for me growing up, I never had anything that I could point to and use as kind of a jumpstart to kind of have a discussion about the way I was feeling, to have a discussion about mental health, to have a discussion about being Black and what does it mean to be a man. And for me, this is something that if somebody were to have questions or want to talk more about it, it's a place to start a conversation. It's a place to kind of have that feeling and to want to investigate that more. And so I'm really excited to, like I said, just share the work and have the work exist out there for people to see, for people to either scroll through and ignore, or to really, delve deeper into it and ask those pivotal questions. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you for this interview. It really means a lot to even be able to talk about all this stuff.
I think there's definitely an audience and people who are going to be interested, people I personally know, and then just strangers. There's a lot of people growing up, and Black means so much to so many different people.
Yes.
We're not all just a mole. None of us fit in. So you being able to share your story is great too. And that's one of the reasons why I do color content, because I think you have way more stories than one story.
Yes.
So with all that said, what message do you want people to get from it? What positive message? Because we tell stories, and sometimes there's some, like, you know, there's stories on like ColoredContent or other websites where there's like shoot 'em up gang violence, but there's a positive message that people want people to take from their content. So
Yes.
ultimately, what do you want people to take from your short film?
I really want people to know that they are not alone. Like I said, I think there's so much power in me even being able to, for so long I couldn't even speak or vocalize my own story, how I was feeling on the inside. I kept it shut in. There was a lot of so much shame that was just harbored in even being able to express, you know, like I don't feel like waking up in the morning sometimes. And like, you know, how heavy that sounds, you know, like how that shifts the room and how that shifts the atmosphere and a group of friends, you know, like nobody wants to talk about that. And so for me, in many ways, I felt alone. When I was quiet, I felt alone. And it wasn't until I decided to do this, to embark on the journey of being a filmmaker. Like I said, I was a poet. I've always been a poet, but I knew I saw in images. And so the jump to even be a filmmaker, to do all this was just, it was getting me out of my comfort zone in many ways. But to do all this and like I said, to have people be able to see it and know that somebody else feels the same way or somebody else is going through the same thing. And like I said, like this, it just, for me, having something to point to, it makes the conversation so much easier to have. We're no longer talking in sort of abstract, sort of say, but now we have something to kind of, again, like kind of look at it and question and ask and kind of figure out together. And so for me, that's really what I want people to walk away from, is just knowing that they're not alone. That this is something that people experience, to you know, to have conversation.
To have conversations. So this is one project that you're working on. What else are you working on? Are you working on more projects that are films, more stuff poetry-esque? What's the next step?
I'm always working on a lot of things. Right now, I call this my gestation period because it's the summertime. I have time to like read and to follow my curiosities, get into new things. And I love kind of just letting my mind take me wherever it wants to go. And I recently got into film school. I was accepted into film school, which is like crazy. Thank you. Which is crazy to me because from Long Island, New York, who, like I said, was always in his book writing. And film was just something that seemed so foreign to me. But as I've gotten older, as I started to really kind of take stock and really connect with myself, I've realized that I'm capable of so much more than I even know. And film is not as foreign to me as I think it is. It's not as different from poetry as, you know, people would have you believe. And so now that I'm in film school, I also have I'm able to have more access to a lot more equipment, a lot more things to really kind of expand the stories that I want to tell and get kind of hone in on my craft. And I'm really excited to do that. But anyway, long story short, right now I'm reading Harriet A. Washington's Medical Apartheid, which talks and chronicles sort of the, believe she's the dark history of medical experimentation amongst African Americans in this country.
Kind of like the Henrietta Lacks kind of
scenario. Very similar to the Tuskegee experiment, that stuff, but so much more. That and so much more. But Tina Judd's book, poetry book series, Patient, which is about which is kind of a similar African American woman and their relationship to the experimentation in the past and how that's led to medical significant medical discoveries now. And so a lot of these things are kind of going through my mind, along with John Head, Standing in the Shadows, Overcoming Depression and Black Men. These things are kind of going through my mind, and I'm just thinking about a lot of different things. And so I can definitely see things beginning to come together for me in the future. And I can't wait to show those things to you. But they're developing right now. It's like I said, it's a gestation period. All these things are kind of just in my mind, and whether it comes out as a poem, a short film, or a piece of theater, who knows? Because I love to express myself through a multitude of mediums. And so yes, the long and short of that, things are on their way.
It just totally cut off.
Oh no!
Did that happen on your end?
No, everything is still here.
Oh.
And it still says live.
Yeah, no, it still says live, but
Okay.
it was like it bleeped, and then you just continue, like the long and short, and I was
Oh.
like, what?
Oh, okay.
So hopefully that part was intact. But
Yeah.
the last thing you were saying that I really kind of caught was like, who knows if it's going to be theater or film or
A short or a poem. But I was saying I express myself through a multitude of mediums, whether it's poetry, short film, or theater. And so right now, once I kind of figure out what it is that I want to say in this next period, which I think really has a lot to do with Black men and their relationship to healthcare, because a lot of my work is really kind of getting to the roots of the stigma. Why is it so hard for us to, as Black men or as Black people in general, admit that we hurt, admit that we are experiencing pain that's not physical, but that's mental. And some of that has to do with the distrust that the African American community has with medicine in the sort of the field of medicine and doctors. And that has a lot to do with our history and the fact that many times that distrust is warranted. And that distrust has kind of been earned. And so just examining that and really kind of unpacking that and trying to figure out how do we kind of break the stigma down to really what it is, and kind of heal from that and move on to the point where that we can have conversations and it doesn't have to be such a taboo subject.
That's cool. I think that's really good. Yeah, I'm so interested. Definitely a lot of people will be interested. I think this generation, we'll say millennials,
Yes.
we're breaking the stigmas of mental health with Black people, because those are conversations that a lot of people didn't have.
It connects so much.
Yeah, me personally, my mom was manic depressive, so for me, I guess I'm more used to someone going to therapy, someone taking medication, some of the things that are positive about it, some of the things that are negative about it. Certain a lot of other people are.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's so many issues that Black people face, and that they're not dealing with. So yeah, I think it's definitely needed. My next question. So this is, you're kind of new to this industry. I know that you submitted something to Black Web Fest, and it was screened, right?
Yes.
And you've been working with some great people who are really talented too, but you're kind of new to filmmaking. What tips would you provide to someone who just started, who, is trying to get into the game? What would you tell them to do?
Number one thing for me, first of all, is you are enough. Knowing that you possess currently everything that you need to do this work, which is hard, grueling work, but you have it. And once I understood that, and once I took time out to really listen to Terrance and get to know Terrance, because a lot of people go into it just wanting a plethora of things. But before you can go in wanting, you need to first know what you have to give, what you bring to the table. And so it's really doing that investigative work to really understand who you are, why you want to do this, the stories you want to tell, and why you want to wake up every morning, like you wake up in the morning and go about doing this work that, and many times is a thankless job. So those two things, knowing that you are enough and knowing yourself, I think nothing can stop you once you kind of get a hold of those two things. Whatever you come up against, all the rejections you come up against, you can push through them because you have those two things in your back pocket. And once I understood that, I feel unstoppable in many ways, because I can get excited to get up, because I know that the work I'm doing is not for fame, not for interviews, not for any of that. All those things are just bonus, but it's really to speak, to get my voice out, and to have others speak back to me.
Okay, cool. Have a foundation, everybody. Know what you want. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final question is, to me, a lot of the Black community wants to work together. We want to help each other. We want to build. How do you feel we can build, and how can people support more projects like your projects, or people doing similar things, or even help you out? Community do to build.
I find that a lot of times for me, it really is about being open to new works, new voices. I found that many times it is a lot of who you know, but it makes the world of difference when people who see something that they like say something, say they like it. When a new filmmaker, new kid on the block, whatever, what have you, whatever term, reaches out to you, you know, kind of engage with them. I'd say that's how I got where I am now, is because Karen and AJ, through Christmas in July 1982, I reached out. I said, hey, I'm a writer. I love to write. I want to do what you do. How can I do that? Kind of just not knowing what I wanted to do just yet, and just kind of being a young kid into the game, still very much a young kid into the game. And they were able to be like, hey, cool, you're interested, you have an interest, we have a need, come PA on our sets, come help out, come be a part, retain the relationship. And that's two-way, you know. On my end, I was reaching out, I was keeping in touch, but it's having that space to kind of, if a hand is being reached out to you, or you see somebody with something that you just see like potential in, something as simple as as viewing or saying great job, keep the thing up. For me, that really creates that sense of community. That creates that sense of, you know, I'm not an artist alone doing this stuff. When I see other people doing great work, a lot of times I'll reach out or say something, and that'll kind of be it, and you kind of left wondering like, okay, I guess you know, that kind of age-old thing, they don't care, or you know, they're busy. I think when you have that sense of even just like people just taking out the time to say like, hey, like this is really cool, love what you're doing, or just something, it really makes a world of difference, and it really establishes that community, and it establishes those bridges of relationship that allow for more work to be created. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Okay, so outreach, support, like.
Yes, outreach, support, like. You can find me on Instagram, Terrance Daye. You can find me on Facebook, which is just Terrance Daye. Don't get my daddy, who has the same name as me. But yes, you can find me on mostly on Instagram and Facebook are the two main platforms that I'm using right now. Not hard to find.
All right. Well, thank you, Terrance, for the great interview.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Yes.
And definitely everyone has to watch The Colored Hospital.
Yes, please go watch The Colored Hospital. And
so dope. You gotta check it out.
Thank you. Watch,
and you're gonna have tons of new projects.
Yes. On the way, if you liked any of what I was sort of talking about or getting into, reach out. I want to talk more about it. If you have it, I love that. That's the community I'm talking about, is reaching out, sharing. Hey, I loved what you did there. Have you seen this? Have you watched that? Have you read this? Maybe you might find this interesting. That's really what for me is like the heartbeat of what we do as artists. Is it's really conversation. Let's talk. Let's not just view and kind of keep moving on with our lives. Teaching, for me, a lot of the work also is teaching your audience how to engage with your work. So I'm just gonna keep making work. Whoever's watching or whatever comes about from it, you know, all the best. But I just keep making work and being consistent in that. And I know from that only good can come. So and then giving glory and honor back to God, because child, that thing, yes, because it's hard. It's hard work and expensive. And so if you don't have some sort of base or foundation, be a rocky road. But yeah.
All right. Well, everything sounds great. Thank you again, Terrance.
Thank you, Victoria. Bye.